Imagine being sentenced to 2 life terms for a crime you didn't commit. In the brutal world of Shawshank prison, hope is a death sentence, and the warden is a god who wants to keep you in chains forever. Everyone thought Andy Dufresne was just another broken man who would die behind these walls. But for 20 years, while the world slept, Andy was secretly executing the most brilliant, slow-burn plan in history. He didn't have an army. He didn't have a weapon. All he had was a tiny hammer and a secret that would eventually shock the entire world. This is the full story of the greatest escape ever filmed. The film opens inside Shawshank prison, a place no man had ever escaped. Any attempt to run meant certain death. The scene shifts to a courtroom where a banker named Andy is condemned to life behind bars for murdering his wife and her lover. Though Andy is innocent, he has no evidence. He is taken to Shawshank prison. He arrives with a group of new inmates. The seasoned prisoners watch them closely and place bets on who will break first. A man named Red wagers that Andy will crack, seeing him as soft and wealthy. That night, the men are locked in their cells. The veterans try to terrify them by creating loud chaos. Several newcomers break down, but Andy stays silent. Red is stunned. He realizes he misjudged Andy's nature. Beneath the calm, Andy is far from weak. The next morning, Andy speaks to an older inmate about prison life and its rules. The man explains everything. He reveals that Red is the only one who can smuggle items from outside. Later, Andy approaches Red. Before Red can speak, Andy assures him, "I will not request anything meant for escape or harm." Andy asks for a small rock hammer. He adds, "I have no intention of hurting anyone, because I have no enemies here." But Red warns him that enemies will find him soon enough. He knows certain inmates have already taken an interest in Andy. They soon attack him and mistreat him in secret. Even so, Red manages to get the rock hammer for him. It is so tiny that Red laughs. He believes if Andy tried to dig with it, it would take 600 years to get through the wall. Still, he delivers the hammer to Andy through Brooks, the elderly librarian. Why Andy wants it remains a mystery. Time slowly moves forward. The predators continue to target Andy, yet he never complains or fights back. 2 years later, the warden declares that a group of inmates will repair the roof. Andy is selected. As they work, Andy overhears a guard named Hadley. He tells another guard, "My brother died and left me money that belongs to me now. But if I claim it, I will be crushed by taxes." Andy listens carefully and steps forward. He asks, "Do you trust your wife?" The guard is puzzled and grows furious. He nearly throws Andy off the roof. Andy quickly explains, "If you trust your wife, you can transfer the money to her. The law states that a gift to a wife is tax-free. I can handle the paperwork for you. A lawyer would charge heavily, but I will do it for nothing." Shocked, Hadley asks, "What do you want in return?" Andy asks nothing for himself. He says, "Just give my friends some beer, even though it is forbidden." The following day, Andy's friends enjoy their beer, a sign that Andy helped Hadley. Time moves on, and Andy and Red grow close. One afternoon, while watching a movie, Andy tells Red, "I want a poster of that actress." Later, as Andy returns to his cell, the gang ambushes him. But Andy is no longer afraid. He fights back fiercely. Enraged, the men beat him brutally, leaving him in the hospital for a month. The main attacker receives a week in solitary confinement. While Andy endures his punishment, Officer Hadley visits him. Furious, yet grateful for Andy's earlier help, Hadley takes revenge by beating the attacker until he is left paralyzed. A month later, Andy returns to his cell. Red surprises him with the poster as a gift. As Andy carefully hangs it, the warden arrives for an inspection. He searches the cell but finds nothing. Andy is only holding a Bible. The warden takes it briefly, then hands it back. The search was merely an excuse. In truth, the warden has heard of Andy's skill with money and wants him to work for him. Andy is appointed the prison librarian. Soon, guards come to him for help with taxes, and Andy's reputation grows. His workload becomes so heavy that he hires Red as his assistant. Days pass, and the oldest inmate, Brooks, a dear friend, is about to be released. Brooks is heartbroken, having spent 50 years inside. He cannot bear to leave. In desperation, he holds a knife to a fellow inmate's throat, hoping to stay in prison. Yet he is released, forced into the outside world. After so many years, freedom terrifies him. The world outside moves too fast, too harsh. Overwhelmed and hopeless, he takes his own life. Before dying, he leaves a letter for Andy and Red, a message that fills them with sorrow. Back in Shawshank, the warden hatches a new scheme. He exploits inmates for outside work contracts, paying them nothing while pocketing enormous profits. Everyone knows the money is illicit, yet the warden keeps Andy close to manage it. Local workers lose their jobs as the warden seizes every contract for himself. Meanwhile, Andy quietly deposits the warden's money under a false name, an identity that does not exist. The funds are now hidden and secure. Days go by. Among the new inmates is a young man named Tommy. He befriends Andy, and when he discovers Andy's innocence, he is deeply disturbed. The story takes a dramatic turn as Tommy brings proof of Andy's wrongful conviction. Tommy had known a thief who, one night, broke into a house. The terrified thief killed the homeowner and his wife during the break-in. Later, He learned that a banker had been wrongly blamed for the crime. Tommy, racked with guilt, admits, "I knew the truth but stayed silent to protect my friend. I only heard about Andy's case much later, after he was already imprisoned." Andy is stunned. The evidence of Andy's innocence is undeniable. He approaches the warden and explains the truth, but the warden dismisses it as a lie. He knows that if Andy is freed, his crimes will be revealed. Andy vows to keep the warden's secrets, yet he is thrown into solitary confinement. There, he meets Tommy and asks if the story is true. Tommy confirms it without hesitation. The warden asks, "Will you tell a judge?" The moment Tommy agrees, the warden signals a guard, and Tommy is shot. Back in solitary, Andy is told Tommy died while trying to escape, but he knows the warden is responsible. Rage fills him. When the warden visits, Andy receives another month in solitary. Everyone can see the injustice, and sympathy for Andy grows among the inmates. 2 months later, Andy returns to the yard and meets Red. He asks, "Will you ever get out?" Red replies, "Maybe, when I am very old." Andy smiles, saying, "I am going to Mexico. It is beautiful there, like paradise. I will open a hotel and restore an old boat, just like you smuggle things into prison." They laugh, but Red grows serious. He warns, "Hope is dangerous. It drives men mad." Andy ignores him. "Promise me one thing when you get out." He gives Red a location. A large tree stands near a stone wall. Beneath a black rock in the wall, there is a box. "You must find it." Red asks why there. Andy replies, "That is where I proposed to my wife." Later, Andy approaches the warden. He completes the paperwork and secures the books in the safe. Then the warden gives him a suit and shoes to clean and shine. Though it is not his duty, Andy agrees. Afterwards, Andy returns to his cell, but Red feels uneasy. The way Andy spoke hinted at something drastic. The warden had also been unusually harsh. Night passes and morning comes. The cells open and everyone steps out, except Andy. Red's worry deepens. Something is wrong. This is the first time Andy has not appeared. The guards check his cell and rush out in panic. Meanwhile, the warden puts on his shoes and discovers Andy's old shoes neatly left in the box. Enraged, he storms to the cells. Alarms blare throughout Shawshank. The escape alarm rings. The warden realizes Andy is gone. He calls Red, demanding, "Where is he?" Red has no answer. The warden shouts, "He didn't just vanish into thin air." In fury, he hurls rocks at the guards and Red. One rock strikes the wall, tearing through the poster. It falls away, revealing a hidden tunnel. Red is stunned. He realizes Andy accomplished this with the tiny hammer. Andy was full of cunning and surprises. Now, the secret of Andy's escape is revealed. Night after night, he dug through the wall for years. Each day, he hid the dirt in his pockets and scattered it across the yard. Bit by bit, the tunnel was completed. The warden searches desperately but finds nothing, only the small hammer and Andy's old clothes. Andy had planned every detail. He had hidden evidence of the warden's crimes. On the final day, he slipped the Bible into the safe. When the warden gave Andy the suit to polish, Andy had already worn it beneath his uniform. He also took the warden's shoes. That is why Andy left his own shoes behind in the box. That night, Andy waited until lights out. Then he slipped into the tunnel and made his way to the pipes. He broke into a sewage pipe and crawled 500 yards through the darkness, finally emerging into the river and tasting freedom. The next morning, Andy arrives at the bank with papers and ID in hand. He transfers the warden's fortune to himself. Andy had spent years planning this, creating a false identity so no one would suspect him. By the end, he is free and wealthy. The total exceeds $300,000. He also sends evidence of the warden's crimes to the newspapers, exposing murder and corruption. When the police arrive, the warden opens his safe and finds Andy's Bible, the same one he had held years before. Inside, a cutout shape of a hammer is revealed. Andy had hidden the hammer there, leaving a final message for the warden, one no one else would ever discover. The warden takes his own life. Later, Red is granted parole for good behavior and moves into the small room once occupied by his friend Brooks. The outside world feels alien. Red struggles with loneliness and dark thoughts, even contemplating suicide. But he remembers the promise he made to Andy. He follows Andy's directions to the hidden box. Inside, he finds money and a letter. Andy's words read, "I am waiting for you." Red smiles, renewed, and sets off for Mexico. There, on a sunlit beach, he finds Andy restoring an old boat. Andy beams at the sight of his friend. They embrace warmly. Andy was right. Hope endures. The story closes with them together, joyful and finally free. Andy Dufresne's journey from a cold prison cell to the sun-drenched beaches of Zihuatanejo is more than just an escape story. It is a profound cinematic metaphor for the human spirit. From a critical perspective, director Frank Darabont uses The Shawshank Redemption to explore the concept of institutionalization. We see this most tragically through the character of Brooks. After 50 years, the prison walls became his reality, proving that the mind can be caged even when the body is free. This is a vital lesson in psychology. We must never let our environment define our potential. Notice the use of color grading. The prison scenes are shot in cold, desaturated blues and grays, representing hopelessness. But when Andy finally emerges into the rain, the screen explodes with high-contrast lighting, symbolizing a spiritual rebirth. My advice to you after watching this masterpiece is simple. Get busy living or get busy dying. Like Andy, we all have walls in our lives, whether they are financial, mental, or social. The lesson here is that persistence and a long-term plan can overcome any obstacle, no matter how small your rock hammer might feel today. If this educational deep dive into the meaning of Shawshank added value to your day, please hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that you value high-quality movie analysis. We are on a massive mission to reach our first 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you makes a difference in this journey. If you want more daily movie recaps and educational critiques that go beyond the surface, please subscribe and join the Billionz family. Thank you for watching until the very end. Your support is our fuel. We'll see you in the next story.